Good afternoon, Council. I'd like to call this Committee of the Whole meeting for December 11th, 2025 to order with adoption of the agenda. Councilor Orlando, Councilor Cherry, all in favor? Motion's carried. Adoption of the minutes of the Committee of the Whole for November 13th. Councilor Devlin, seconded by Councilor Orlando, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you. Any business arising from those minutes? Seeing none, I'm going to go right on to delegations and presentations. So we have Revelstoke Mountain Resort here, resort update. So if you want to come to the podium, please, gentlemen.
Hello.
How are you, Peter?
I need to plug in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
bottom. Paul's got you.
Thanks, Paul.
No problem.
Ms. Delaselle, for the record, all of council is in the chambers.
Thank you.
There we go. Top, catch up. All right, ready?
We're ready.
All right. Well, thank you, Your Worship and Honorable Council. Thanks for having us. We're here to give a little update on the resort. Twice annual update to the council, and happy to answer any questions. So going through really a review of 2025. And we did do I think I saw some of you at our open house at the rec center a couple weeks ago. Pretty similar content, so it might be repetitive for a few of you, but again, happy to answer any questions as we move through or at the end. Yeah, 2025 summer in review. It was a really strong summer overall for Revelstoke as a destination. Really strong occupancies. I think overall this Revelstoke was around 85% occupancy for the summer, driven by kind of a real shift in what we saw. I think it started a really big surge of it starting with the Jasper fires the year before. We only slipped about 1.5 points in occupancies year over year. So there was a big trend in Canada for not traveling south this year. So we did see a lot of domestic travel. So a lot of folks who decided to get in their cars or jump on a plane and do a car trip around BC. So very good, but we did continue to see strong numbers out of America and strong numbers out of Europe. From a stats perspective, it was our strongest visitation from specifically to the resort activities. Strongest visitation year we've ever had. It was really, really strong, even stronger than the year before with the Jasper. From an experience standpoint, really focused on delivering interesting experiences, but in particular for kind of what we're seeing in a shift in clientele, which is really towards a more leisure-focused guest. Leisure-focused traveler. And you probably see it you can feel it anecdotally or see it anecdotally around town. We're seeing people coming to Revelstoke not just as a stopover, as an adventure destination, but as a place to come and enjoy. So if they're spending more time downtown, they're looking for experiences that, and their stays are ending up being, they're looking for experience or stays are, measured by days, not hours. So that's a real change. And from that perspective, we're really happy with our new product, which is the Highline, which I think most of you got a chance to go and have a look at, which is really focused on that type of clientele. Someone who's a soft adventure, great for photographs and Instagram moments. So we did launch that towards the end of August and did a free promo for the rest of the season for our all over Revelstoke residents with really great success and great feedback.
So Peter, just switch back to that.
Please.
Picture. What are these kids going to do? I mean, they've got helmets on. Are they flying off of that thing or what?
These guys are bikers.
Okay.
So that's a patroller, and then I think this is a kids bike camp.
Oh, wow.
So,
All right.
Second year of running bike camps for kids, and our first year of running just summer experience camps, which were super successful too. So another option for locals and visitors to have their kids go and get an outdoor experience, and while they can do something else, they can have their own outdoor experience.
Awesome. Thank you.
No problem. Project progress. What's up? So just touched on this, but that's a photo for, I think everybody probably went up and saw it, but yeah, really happy with how this turned out. It's just a spectacular scene, and we really do think that this is going to be the star of the show for our summer products in the future. So excited to get it rolling out for next and really launch a grand opening of it next summer or next spring. Sorry. I also saw quite a few of your faces at our open house for staff housing a couple weeks ago, and yeah, really proud of the fact of this project. We've gained occupancy for the residential side of the building, and we're almost 70% full now already. So, and for those who got a chance to come out and have a look at it, really proud of the quality of the product and the feedback from our staff. And this is a really important step and infrastructure piece for us to really try and create a great environment for our staff so we can create great memories for our guests.
Just to confirm, the resort no longer rents any housing from the local market for the purposes of staff.
Correct.
Beautiful. Thank you for that.
Yeah, so real impact on the rental market.
Yeah.
A positive impact for folks. So, on site right now, we can house up to 400 people with between this and the in our modular housing components that we opened last year. Cabot Golf, Jason, you want to give an update?
Sure. This is a picture of, I think it's the 16th hole looking towards Mount Begbie. We have 7 holes fully greened and growing. We have another hole that's been seeded. We have an aggressive plan. I actually met with Cabot this morning and laid out our 2026 plan and our seeding program so that we can be open for 18 holes of golf in 2027. So we're really excited to get this course open. We believe it's going to be the destination mountain course in North America potentially. Where Cabot has 3 of the top 100 courses in the world under their management, and we're hoping to push this one into that list too. So really excited about this golf course. The Carl Hotel is well under construction. Actually, we have some of the siding on the red part now all as well. And again, opening early 2027. 154 rooms as a refresher, conference facility, as well as a steakhouse, as well as the home of Selkirk Tangiers. And it'll flip seasonally between the home for Cabot. Entry landscaping, I think if you've been up to the resort, you've seen a change in arrival experience. This is our monuments, but the whole road and the multi-use path is now complete. We're in the warranty period with that project and just doing the final administrative cleanup with the city in terms of road right-of-way alignment. The road right-of-way ended up getting a little wider to accommodate things like the roundabout, and the multi-use path is a very organic path. It's not a sidewalk. So there's going to be some right-of-way boundary adjustments, but I think that's in front of council soon. Net land to the city, unfortunately for us, but that's okay. I'll let you.
Yeah, sure. Significant additional trail at the resort is obviously the multi-use path, and really, as I go by it multiple times a day, and just how much use it's getting from not just people that are at the resort, but the community in Arrow Heights. It's the go-to place to go walk your dog or roll your baby around. So yeah, really happy to see that. From a trail perspective, a lot of our focus this past summer was on rebuilds of existing bike trails and hiking trails to support the new attraction around the Highline. As we move forward, we've got some plans for the future as we look at expanding our mountain biking and hiking trail networks over the coming summers.
Yeah, so this slide is a few weeks old now. So we've got 2 neighborhoods under development at the resort. One's called Mountain Road Estates, and the other one's called Benchlands. Benchlands is the one as you're coming up in Mackenzie Village is on the left. It's on the right. You'll see some construction just behind the trees. Those are the townhomes on the left. They're actually getting ready to put the roof packages on those right away. We've got 8 units under construction there. And then up on Mountain Road, we have 2 duplex units under construction. So 2 buildings, 4 units, and the foundations are in, and we'll start framing those as soon as the 8 units on Benchlands are complete. Both neighborhoods are tracking well in terms of construction. And we'll be releasing sales, more sales in those units actually late next week. So moving on in those two neighborhoods.
Excuse me. It's winter. Slightly delayed. I think everyone's probably aware that we were planning to open on the 29th and had to delay to the 6th. We had really good snow conditions up high, but as you know, it's been warmer than usual for this fall. So a lot of the precip that came in as water, not snow, at the lower elevations. So happy to say that we've been seeing lots of snow even through this Pineapple Express or Atmospheric River. Conditions are improving daily, and we're hoping to be getting down to the bottom to Revelation Lodge elevations as early as this Saturday, which would be great. And when you look ahead opening day, we talked about that, but from a forecast perspective, the long range forecast actually is still for a colder and wetter than average winter. So we do still expect to have a really fruitful snow year. A little bit of a late start, but the precipitation certainly is happening, and our short-term forecasts look great, and the long-term forecasts are also strong. From a market perspective, our pre-bookings have been really strong. I think that's throughout the whole market, in particular coming out of the United States. So the US is definitely still looking to travel to Canada, as is Europe and Eastern Canada. That continued weak Canadian dollar compared to the US dollar is definitely encouraging, but the brand of Revelstoke out in the world is strong and growing. And so feeling quite buoyant about what this winter will be like, and as long as it continues to snow. So feeling really good about it. Thought we'd just feature a few of our holiday events that are coming up. We had our light up the day before what was supposed to be opening on the 28th, and then really kind of put a renewed focus on our holiday calendar this year. So hopefully some of you can come up and enjoy some of these events. Definitely love to see you out there. And that's it. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Council, any questions, any comments? I appreciate what you guys are doing up there. Thanks for getting that staff accommodation up and running, to speak with some of the staff and see how excited they are about it. And conversation, Peter, you were in the room, and the young fellow was talking. He's been in staff accom before, and he goes like, "This is like supreme." So I was impressed by how beautiful the place is, and you've got everything for staff that's going to make them want to come. They're not going to want to rent anywhere else, so it's pretty cool. So having that on for us is exciting. Bringing that forward and any other work that you're building, and let's hope it's a good snow year for you. Right? So look forward. I think if you plan it right with your heli tour, instead of a heli tour, you get a sleigh for Santa. You're going to be better off. Councilor Palmer.
All right, thanks. Yeah, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the invite to employee housing. It's just helpful to actually see stuff. Anecdotally, the social media circles last year was anybody that was looking for work was being criticized on social media for not having their accommodation. And I've actually now seen the shift now, people that are criticized for not having their job before they come here. So it's definitely between, all the inventory, this inventory, the employee housing, Raven's Nest, other developments is, that's the market is dealing with a lot of our housing issues. So thank you for that. A question on the Carl. What's the story behind the name, the Carl?
Happy to talk. Carl. So the hotel concept was one of the original kind of inspirations for putting the building there was to house Silk Tangiers. And probably some of you are familiar with Peter Schlumager, founder of Silk Tangiers Heli Skiing. Well, his grandfather's name was Carl. And he was one of the first of the Swiss mountain guides to arrive in Canada and help find the route through Rogers Pass. So it's named in honor of him.
Great. Okay. Great.
We have permission from his estate and his family to use his writing. So the brand is his his penmanship.
Wow, good.
And we have one of the original pictures from the past of him with a, hemp rope and, wool jackets. And, we're going to try and recreate that in a painting for the entrance. We really want to celebrate, being part of this place. And Selkirk Tangiers exists because people like that pioneered here. In the Benchlands neighborhood, we have a new part 3 that we're planning, and we're really looking at the railway theme for that. Tom Galari's great grandfather emigrated to Canada and worked in Revelstoke Weekly, and then took the train down to Cloverdale where their family was. So they've got long history here as it relates to the rail. So he's passionate about bringing the rail theme into the resort as well. And the car was driven by Tom. It wasn't driven by Selkirk. It was driven by him. He wants this place to be rooted. He wants the resort to be rooted in the place, and the place to be proud of the resort.
Yeah, thanks for that. I guess the history is so important by having that just and so thanks for telling the story. Appreciate that. Councilor Palmer, any more questions? Anyone else?
It just came today, but we just got another $580,000 winch cap. We have a lot more visitation coming, so we're trying to work on snow surfaces for people. We don't have a picture in the deck because it just showed up today. So we're continuing to invest in places that you don't see as much, but hopefully will help with those experiences. Because, we are seeing more people come to the resort, so we want to make sure we can spread people out and their experience on snow is good as well.
Awesome. Good to hear that. Mr. Parlin?
Just a couple of things quickly. Paul and I had a chance to walk Cabot. Bradley took us out on a tour. We were surprised at the maturation and how far along it's come. Being that I think at the time, you seeded in August, and we were there in early October, and we were stunned to see the greenery. It's something to see because you don't really see it on the road. So compliments to Bradley and his team. And second, just to confirm, I believe back to housing. Correct me if I'm wrong, gentlemen. Whistler and Vale does not provide staff housing to Whistler Blackcomb, correct?
No.
Yeah, I was talking to the CAO for Whistler, and she was amazed and glad to hear that Revelstoke and the owner of RMR provided staff housing. And I was shocked that Whistler did not. I guess the staff at Whistler and Blackcomb just enter the market and try to find their own, or the Whistler Housing Authority.
Whistler Housing Authority.
Yeah.
They're separate entities on the resort.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I was surprised. I thought Vale had something, but I found that interesting. Anyways, thank you.
No, thank you. Councilor Cherry?
Thanks. Just to the chair, since you started talking about winter operations, I'm wondering if you have any numbers on opening weekend or opening day.
We had 31 centimeters overnight. Is that the kind of numbers you're asking?
I
We were
wanted that.
around 3,000 people for opening.
100 people per centimeter.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
That's
you
good.
do the math.
But we had a lineup that started 2 days earlier. We rang the bell at 8:30. 38 minutes later, the last person in line got on the lift.
Awesome.
Wow, that's incredible.
It was a really great day.
Perfect.
So that when you're in a public information session and somebody says they waited 3.5 hours,
Yeah.
it has never happened unless they got 3.5 hours early.
Yeah. Show up at 4 a.m. It won't open for 4.5 hours. That's how it works.
Awesome. Appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Lim? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time. Thank you again for what you
Have a great holiday. See you in the
You
new
too.
year.
Yep,
Yeah.
thanks again.
Happy holidays, everybody.
All right, we're going to move on to staff reports. Mr. Parliament, you're going to do the municipal land management policy.
Yeah.
That's been deferred from a few weeks ago.
So, Mayor and Council, what you see before you is, first of all, just an update. I'm not going to go through the update on the process. As you know, 2 policies back in the day were approved, both the land sales policy and the road closure policy. And then, of course, in 2023, Council adopted the municipal land disposition policy. So what we have is an updated policy A11 under consideration, and staff are seeking your input, being that this is a committee of the whole meeting. Our corporate officer has prepared an amended policy A11, specifically trying to A, fast track applications, and B, also protect the public interest and make it more clear. And I think we can all appreciate how difficult it is when you're trying to dispose of municipal lands. And there's various questions that always come up. And this policy is a tool to help assist you guys make those decisions. So with that, I open the floor to questions. Specifically on the policy, we did talk about something that came up the other day about a direct sale. If it either aids a development that benefits the community, i.e. affordable housing, there's language in the amended policy that addresses that and attempts to, again, fast track, but also protect the community interest. So with that, hopefully I can answer any questions. It's in draft form and it's before you for consideration.
Good. Anyone want to start off?
Question.
Go ahead, please.
So on the it says comprehensive land inventory shall be evaluated annually. What does that look like? And I'm just wondering if that's, that's shall is saying, okay, this is going to happen, absolutely, and how that's in a work plan. But so I could just sort of see it kind of getting forgotten, even though it's in a policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if it should be that strong, I guess.
I mean, through the chair, the inventory it's an exhaustive list. It's 4 main sections, and 2 of the sections are more or less fixed, in my opinion. They're municipal properties, i.e. City Hall, i.e. the arena, i.e. The rec center, fire hall, etc. Obviously, we're not going to dispose of those properties, and the other ones are just basically too difficult to develop. It's the ones that are ripe for disposal, ripe for development, but may serve other municipal purposes, and that changes over time. They should be reviewed. Because at any time, even though a lot is deemed surplus today, you update your strategic priorities list, a new opportunity comes forward. There may be an opportunity for the city to protect that lot that was once deemed surplus, should now be considered possible partnership for affordable housing or something else. So it should be reviewed. And I think it's just incumbent on council through their strategic priorities report to direct staff to provide an annual update if anything has changed. And I'm specifically talking about the properties deemed surplus or if they have not changed.
Anyone else?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Reviewing the land sale policies from the various communities that are listed in the report, I don't see any others that I would immediately flag as being a resort municipality. And I'm wondering why we didn't look at any of the land sale policies from those municipalities that are similar to us.
Okay, duly noted. Thank you.
Any other comments on the land management policy?
Just to flag a couple dead links here, or ones that we don't have permission to view at the bottom of the,
Yeah, I'm not able to open those as well.
Okay.
I was having problems.
The links?
yeah, so the bottom of the
Land
link
sale
attachments,
Can't get
we
in?
don't have permission as council. Yeah, the problem we're logged in.
The
Though we can,
policies are on the agenda, that one works, but it is missing, yeah.
Okay.
Same.
This one.
so these ones are cool.
Councilor Moon.
Yeah, thank you. Just seeking a bit of clarity from staff on how these interface the proposed new policy as well as existing policy. what is going to be replaced or overridden, or what will still be in effect with the three policies.
Mr. Brown.
Well, in short, you already have an existing policy, A11. What's being proposed in amendment is to A11. So under your linked attachments, you have your existing policy, attachment 1, and the proposed new policy, which is attachment 3. So what we're trying to do is combine both the original 1994 land sales policy and the road closure policy, combining it, integrate that with your land disposition list, and amend A11 to a new policy, and that's what's up for discussion. So to answer your question, is the difference between the existing A11 policy and the new proposed A11. Does that make sense?
And just for clarity, for example, the road closure policy would also be rolled into A11, or?
Correct.
That's right.
Correct.
And the municipal land disposition for affordable housing policy would remain.
Correct. And the idea is, instead of having 3-4 different policies to deal with a lot deemed to be surplus or up for disposition, we roll it into one all-encompassing amended A11 policy, addressing all those things combined. That's the intent here.
Any other comments or questions from council? Councilor Staples?
Yeah, just a question as to where this is going next. Will this be coming to the governance committee for further review, or will this be going to the next council meeting?
Should go to council.
Traditionally, we go straight to council, but you do have a governance committee. It is the wish of council where it should go. Staff have no preferred choice, but traditionally we come back to council. This is something you can think of over the holidays. We're not meeting again until the new year. But if you want it back on the January agendas, let us know.
So does someone want to make a motion that this be forwarded on to council? And we look at it in a council meeting?
I actually just have a question.
Go ahead.
If I can. I'm having trouble locating this in the documents, but my question is this, through the chair, will this come back? So if there is a land ask from an applicant, surplus of all that, will that come back to the council or to staff to make that decision or recommendation?
Well, the policy will guide staff at the end. The policy will guide staff in the deliberation and recommendation. In the end, only council decides.
Okay, thank you.
Councilor.
Thank you, Mayor Souls. Further to your question, it seems to me that there's a couple of questions here that maybe should be vetted before going on to a council meeting or
Okay.
otherwise. Well, and so maybe the referral of this, just the report as it is, to the governance committee might be a stepping stone. There's options given, but there isn't one specific recommendation. And it seems that we're not in a position to make a specific recommendation to council at this point, so maybe going to governance might
You
provide
want to
some.
make that as a
Yes.
motion?
Yeah, sure. So I just refer the municipal land management policy to the governance committee.
Okay, seconder for that motion. Councilor Staples, any further discussion on the motion?
Just a point of clarification, Mr. Mayor, correction. I mentioned land sales policy A11, which exists, is to be replaced with an amended policy, attachment 3. It's actually attachment 4. Thank
Okay.
you. That's just small.
Councilor Orlando?
Yeah, if this were to be referred to the governance committee, what would be the next step after the governance committee? Would it return to committee of the whole for discussion?
Through the chair, governance committee would recommend, to council, to either regular or committee of the whole.
So, would that recommendation, I can't guess the future, but I'm assuming that recommendation would pick one of the options here, or try and narrow it down or make suggestions. Then that is going to go to council at a reduced, with maybe some of the options eliminated as a suggestion, maybe amending motion to refer back to committee of the whole. after that, so people can digest and take a look, and also have a look at what the governance committee recommends. Committee of the whole is a broad committee that involves people here and staff, but the governance committee has a much smaller membership. So we're great to see it back here at Committee of the Whole.
Would the mover and seconder be amenable to that?
Yeah, I'll just speak to it briefly.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just, was looking for a way of moving this forward. Just seeing we weren't ready for it to go back to council. There's no one here at the table that's coming with a specific one of the recommendations to debate. And I think it's because, between broken links or additional information, we need that. So I guess based on what I'm hearing from Councillor Orlando is he would like to see this broad discussion here. So yeah, I could amend it that to be reviewed by the governance committee and then brought back to the committee in the whole rather than council. I'd be fine with that.
And as a seconder, Councillor Stickners, you're,
I'd be also fine with that.
okay. So does that work for everyone around the table? All right, in light of that, I'm going to call a question. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried. Thank you. All right, let's move on to our complete communities final report. Mr. Simon, an overview for us?
Thank you, Worship. We actually have our planning consultant. He's a community planning consultant, Mr. Daniel Sturgeon, who has supported the city through this project from start to finish. Before jumping into it, Daniel will be able to speak to the project better than I can. Daniel has extensive experience working in Revelstoke. He has worked for the city before, so we were very happy to have him on this project with all the key insight he was able to provide. And just really appreciative of the work that the development services team did. I know Ms. Comars was quite instrumental in this project last summer, specifically with the daily needs assessment, as well as our engineering department that was very instrumental in all the maps that were produced as part of this project that will provide really key insights to the community as we continue to grow and try to manage that growth as effectively as we can. So with that, I will pass it over to Mr. Sturgeon, who can give a brief presentation to council.
Mr. Sturgeon, wonderful to see you again.
Nice to see you, Mr. Mayor Saltz. It's been a few years.
Yeah, so the floor is yours.
Thank you. Is my audio coming through there okay?
It is, thank you. Yeah.
All right, let's see if I can get this sharing to work. You should be able to see my presentation now.
We can, yeah, thanks, Tim.
Perfect. Okay, thanks for that introduction, Paul. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. The weather was looking a little shaky and there's some nasty stuff on the highway, so we opted to do this virtually, but I hope to be there in person in the future at some time. And it's great to hear all of the wonderful things that are happening since I've been there. So thanks again for having me here and excited to answer your questions on this. So I've got quite a few slides here I'm going to move through really quickly, but I want to emphasize at the start here that the overarching theme of this work is to help inform ways to proactively prepare for growth and development that supports objectives of complete communities as the province has defined them and objectives within your community. So I'll explain that in detail as we go through. If I can get my slides to advance. There we go. So I'll give you an overview of the landscape around this funding program, describe how it's intended to support an understanding of your future growth, go over some patterns of this in the context of your community goals and priorities. I'll give a little bit of background on how we structured the analysis with Paul and staff there, explain some of the assumptions we made around that, and then give examples and highlights of the maps that you have in your package there and touch on some of the insights. It's a fairly meaty report, and so this will be a kind of a 10,000-foot overview, but it's a quite in-depth analysis. So happy to answer questions at the end, or if you prefer, Your Worship, feel free to interrupt. So leading up to the Complete Communities funding, well, I should say first, this is a provincially funded program that was administered through UBCM, and funding was distributed to dozens of municipalities across the province. And we had the privilege of doing this for a number of them. So we were able to borrow from those approaches and apply that learning here. For better or for worse, this grant funding has come at a time when there's major changes to the landscape around municipal governance and planning in the province. And there's been a lot of stagnation in the housing industry despite major growth pressures. There's a housing shortage and affordability crisis. You know about that well there. But despite that, the work of government and the need to look ahead doesn't stop. And so this is really focusing on that proactive planning emphasis that the province has introduced over the past couple of years and help support decision-making around that and align with that provincial shift. Looking at housing needs assessments, your need to accommodate 20 years of growth in your OCP, the new small-scale multi-unit pre-zoning are all considerations that are built into this. And so the approach of this funding program is to help with common challenges and consistent priorities across governments in the province, but largely related around those topics I just mentioned. And it really sits at the center of the relationship between land use in the community, different types of housing options, housing affordability, infrastructure costs, and overall community well-being. And supporting strategic decision-making, supporting your strategic decision-making around that. And to draw a line between fiscal sustainability within the municipality, land use planning, and community well-being, as I mentioned. And just to emphasize again, the province wanted this to be customized in each case to support community goals. And so the overall objective here was to understand patterns of existing and future growth in the community, and in terms of housing, and how that understanding can support proactive planning. So what are complete communities? So this is a definition from the provincial guide, and I'll just read it off the slide. Communities, or areas within the community which provide a diversity of housing to meet identified community needs and accommodate people at all stages of life, and provide a wider range of employment opportunities, amenities, and services within a 15 or 20-minute walk. And so what is the complete community assessment? In its simplest form, it's GIS analysis of existing data to produce new mapping visuals. It's intended to be exploratory and open-ended, so approached more like a research project than a typical planning project, and to use that analysis to gain insights into strengths, opportunities, and challenges you might face. And again, focusing on your community priorities and trying to find new ways of understanding ways to address those. So really focusing on visuals and then looking at strategy and opportunity. The province has prescribed that this be done through the use of what they call 4 lenses. So you've got those on the screen in front of you. So those are housing. So looking at a diversity of housing types, daily needs. So we've also called this amenities. So the proximity between housing, employment, and daily needs. Transportation. So looking at different transportation options to connect these. This program is mostly focused on alternatives to cars, so transit, walking, and active transportation like cycling. And then infrastructure, so trying to combine all that together to create a more efficient use of infrastructure. And so through this work, we produced quite a number of maps. There's 68 individual map sets in that package that you have. And what we've done is we've created a series of base maps, as we call them, that portray existing information that you already have in the community. And then we've taken those and combined them together to create overlay maps, and really looking for patterns that emerge from that. And again, looking at those opportunities and strategic insight into that. At the beginning of the project, we took account of a number of community priorities. You'll hear me say that a few times to orient the work. And we just wanted to note that council's priorities are included in that. And then we also drew from many of your other existing community priorities through plan documents, conversations with your staff, known upcoming priority projects in the community, other known community needs relative to those existing plans, and then known challenges related to growth. And so from that long list, we came up with a shorter list of community priorities that could be supported or better understood by this work. And so I've got those on the screen right now, and none of those will come as a surprise to anyone there. So I talked about those 4 lenses, and what we found in previous projects is that those 4 lenses became a little bit too siloed. If you even trying to combine them together, it get a little mushy or a little bit too focused on one or the other. So we worked with Paul and staff there to kind of roll this into some thematic directions that could better guide the rest of this work. And so I'm going to walk through those on the slide, as these are really important to the approach we took and the arrangement of the maps that you see in your package. So the first one is growth scenarios. Where is housing likely to develop and how much? So this is to help inform an understanding of infill housing mostly and the patterns of that throughout the community and what that might look like, and looking to understand and gain insight into what needs could emerge from this. How could you better prepare for this growth is really what that comes down to. The second theme is development applications and decision-making surrounding those. So how does utility and transportation infrastructure interact with this housing growth? How can they be coordinated? How can capital projects and infrastructure improvements support that housing growth? And then lastly, the third theme was priority amenities. So how do the daily amenity needs of life interact with housing growth? And so we'll show that with some examples. At the end, we came up with, like I said, 68 different map sets of those base maps and those overlay maps, and they're organized in these categories throughout the report. And there's an atlas of them in the very last pages of that report if you care to go through and look at some of the specific maps. I just wanted to acknowledge that we mined quite a number of data sources, both from BC Assessment through the province and a lot of data that you already had in the community, and then qualitative data from your staff that we were able to put onto some of the maps. So almost moving into some of the examples here, but I want to highlight that this, as I said, the process is a bit exploratory, and the province prescribes an approach in 3 phases. Prepare, so that understanding of community priorities, mapping out the data that you already have. Assess, which is going through the actual process of producing maps and understanding them, and then act. And so as you go through that process, the themes and the outcomes and the questions that you're asking can shift. And so we use this guiding question to really frame up this work. And so that question is, how can Revelstoke more proactively understand and prepare for the impacts of new growth and development to be able to plan for needed infrastructure and needed amenities? And that graphic is in the report if you wanted to have a closer look at it later. So for that, going back to that first thematic question, where is housing likely to develop and how much? I just wanted to kind of emphasize how the OCP influenced this. And so with your growth strategy in the OCP, you've moved towards a centralized development, one that I've highlighted on the screen there. And so we've made some assumptions around that and really tried to understand what that could look like in the community. There's a limitation to this in the sense of apartments, multi-unit apartments, that we're not able to really predict. And so what we've done is we've taken 75% of your future growth, not 100%, and we've excluded the multifamily out of that. The reason for that is that zoning isn't in place for these. Zoning is in place for infill development. The scale of the buildings is unknown. It's dependent on individual projects, site specifics. These projects are still subject to rezoning, so there's opportunity to negotiate or address specific needs at the time of those applications. Unlike infill, which is now permitted in a lot of your zoning and can come across your staff's desk and the council table much more sporadically. So we're focusing here on that 75% of growth that constitutes infill growth through the future. So this is really this slide really illustrates the core of how we put together these growth assumptions. And so I'll walk through these one by one. On the left side, we've got an image there that represents recent growth. So we looked at building permit and BC assessment data over the past 10 years to understand where all new housing located throughout the city. And so you can see there, the smaller dots are representing secondary suites and new houses, and the larger dots are representing larger scale developments. We've added to that all of the in-stream and in-queue housing that you have that is currently going through either building permit or development applications. So as of the time that we incorporated that was about April this year, there was 1,300 housing units in various stages of development permit or building permit or inquiry stage with some level of confidence that that was going to come forward. So we added those first two together. And then the third one on the right-hand side is what we call likelihood of redevelopment. So we've done an analysis of lots throughout the city and looked at different factors of those existing lots. I've got some notes on the bottom of the screen there. So parcel and building information, the age of the building, the value of the property, whether or not it's vacant, how big the house is relative to the lot size, and come up with a scoring system that basically ranks lots based on their likelihood of redevelopment. We know from past experience that older lots, older houses, smaller houses on bigger lots are more likely to develop than newer houses, larger houses, ones that carry a higher market value. And so with that scoring, we've assigned that future growth from your OCP onto those lots and peppered them throughout the community, starting with the highest scoring lots, the most likely to develop, and then working our way down the list. And so that's how we've produced these maps and these visuals that start to show these patterns of growth. And so I've got on the slide here what we call development trends. And And so putting this together, you start to get a real illustration of where growth has been happening and is likely to occur. So just a reminder that this is looking 10 years back and 20 years forward, all combined into one. So 30 years of growth. I want to emphasize that the key here is to identify potential patterns of growth. We're not trying to predict specific lots that might develop, but rather the clusters or the areas that might see more significant changes over time. So we'll go into some observations now, but before I do that, I wanted to address that you might be asking yourself, don't we already do this with our GIS mapping? And the answer is yes and no. A lot of the data is existing, but it's usually looked at in isolation, and it's not combined in the way that we've done it. And it doesn't necessarily look at this time horizon that we've done with this. So this process is intended to visualize it in different ways, combine different topics together, and gather that new insight. Looking for relationships between these lenses, between housing and amenities, between housing and infrastructure, or housing and transportation. So I'll show you a few highlights here on the screen and then move into some of the bigger picture takeaways. And I wanted to also emphasize that the maps on the slides are just a snip. There's the 68 maps in your report, and then your staff also have a package of maps that show more zoomed in perspectives in different neighborhoods for a closer up look. And there's a digital package, an interactive web map that they have as well. So the first example here is the existing housing density in the community. So you can see on this map that there's different concentrations throughout. This is not going to be a surprise to anyone, but it starts to show that relative difference and overall patterns and clusters that exist right now. The one on the left is a different representation than the one on the right. The left uses these hexagon patterns and is scaled at a different amount than the one on the left. And so the one on the left basically says that you've got more concentrations of smaller housing developments throughout the community, whereas the one on the right starts to show you where there's concentrations of larger housing developments. So these different visualizations can start to illustrate very different patterns that exist. This one here shows a potential change in density, again, taking in those 10 years past and then looking 20 years into the future. So you've got in-queue plus those estimates of future growth. And again, you can start to see patterns of growth that are emerging over that time horizon. So clearly there's more expected here in central Revelstoke, in the south side, and quite a bit less in the Arrow Heights and Victoria Heights neighborhood. The gray hexagons represent areas that don't show any growth that measures on this map, whereas the colored ones show where there is growth. Where there's no hexagons or areas that weren't factored in. Another way to see patterns here using those different symbols. This example shows where there's a change in density of greater than 8 units a hectare. And so this one really starts to show the difference between expected infill growth in the central area versus those existing larger development sites that are in the Arrow Heights area. So you've got more sporadic infill growth clustering in those older neighborhoods, and then those larger, more focused, larger scale redevelopment sites in those outlying communities. And this really reflects the age of these neighborhoods as well. So those older, more centralized neighborhoods of the city have that higher likelihood. Those more outlying areas have a much more lower likelihood of development due to the age of that housing stock, and that's reflected in this visual. So moving on to some infrastructure examples. These two represent existing conditions. So we've got road conditions on the left, and we've got some of your planned and existing sidewalks pulled from transportation master plan data on the right-hand side. So again, nothing new here, but this is a great example to combine those same infrastructure maps with that 30-year growth pattern. And you can start to get a really good illustration of how those patterns of growth can align with planned infrastructure improvements or with areas that are needing improvement, such as the road conditions in Farwell. This type of consideration is really important for infill, where those smaller scale projects that can't necessarily afford to fund large amounts of offsite infrastructure could benefit from a more strategic approach to improvements in these areas, knowing that growth is likely to occur. So again, it starts to tell that story. In the report, we really focused on some of the differences between some of the neighborhoods throughout the city that are expecting more growth. There's quite a few differences between those. And you can really here in this zoomed in example start to see the discrepancy between, say, Farwell, where there's a lot of growth expected, and some roads highlighted in red, which are in poor to desperate condition, versus in the Arrow Heights neighborhood where there's clusters of growth, but not necessarily that much need for infrastructure improvements. Again, with an infrastructure example, this is a combination of multiple data sources that help understand areas of the city that have maybe limitations with respect to infill. So that you can see where there's concentrations of older sanitary water, fire flow issues, and much lower condition roads with, again, quite a discrepancy between those neighborhoods. And then again, telling that story with the location of that expected growth to help prioritize and justify those. So an example here of daily needs, complete communities are really focused on walkability, and so the nearby access to those daily needs. And you can see clearly here, strong green means better access in the downtown and tapering out from there. Won't come as a surprise, but again, this is useful information when you start to layer on that expected growth, and it starts to raise interesting questions about what you might want to do about that. So understanding where there's gaps in the community, how can these be improved? Should development of new amenity clusters be pursued? Should that be incorporated into land use planning? Or asking, are clusters of new development already well served? So a different type of proactive analysis. Same kind of analysis can be put towards parks. So this is straight out of your parks master plan. What we've done here is we've overlaid a 5-minute walk shed from each of these existing parks to highlight properties that have good access, good walking access to neighborhood parks, and then shown where your planned parks are from your parks master plan. And again, on this one, we've overlaid that growth, which can help prioritize which ones of those you may look to pursue in the near future versus the far future. So pulling this all together. As I said, it's a meaty report with a lot of visuals. You can draw a lot of different conclusions or insights. Different people with different professional backgrounds, with different interests, will draw different insights from those maps. And so it serves as a resource. The intent is that the work, the document, the maps, there's the digital dashboard I mentioned, is available to your staff. It's available to council. And this can help inform future planning, act as an ongoing information resource. It's not a shelf document. It's supposed to be an ongoing tool. That can be through daily work, so better insight for processing development applications, or it can be to help understand challenges with larger projects such as area-specific plans or infrastructure planning. Can help understand further avenues for analysis or help you identify new challenges to consider as part of those future processes. And so you'll have opportunity to act upon that in the future. And we hope that your staff can go into those processes as informed as they can be. So just a few insights here before I wrap up. The first one, Revelstoke is already, in many respects, a very complete community. It's small, it's walkable, it's got a compact form, and access to daily needs are very good compared to larger or more dispersed communities. But two, there's opportunities to improve. There's always opportunities to improve, particularly where there's gaps in the transportation network, so cycling lanes, sidewalks. And what this helps identify is that your taxation from infill growth can be stretched further and help to fund needed infrastructure improvements in those infill neighborhoods. And so the analysis can help prioritize those decisions, both at staff level and at the council level. That can also be done during application review on bigger projects. So we hope that this can be used towards that. Number 3 on the slide there's a pinch point here, and that's that infill growth is likely to be concentrated in those existing neighborhoods where development can be more challenging. The infrastructure is old. Like I said, those projects have a hard time absorbing the costs of bigger offsite infrastructure improvements. And so this can help shed light on where those might be, where that growth is going, and then take that proactive approach if that is the decision. So I'm a little bit of repeat here, but I just wanted to highlight that the areas expected to see infill growth also face some of the biggest infrastructure pressures, the highest concentration of aging water and sewer systems and roadways, and there's not been a lot of change in these neighborhoods. So the reason I put this on the slide again is to highlight this as an opportunity and a challenge. By planning ahead for infill growth, by better servicing those neighborhoods before that growth happens, that can serve as an incentive and take the pressure off of outlying growth in areas that may not contribute to complete communities. Number two, this raises questions about how to respond to growth at the individual development scale or at the larger scale. So really building on what I'm saying in number one, the notion of being proactive or reactive towards development applications as they come in the door. And then number three here is touching on the fact that central neighborhoods have strong access to daily needs, to parks, to services, and areas on the periphery have lower access. And so thinking about that amenity access on those periphery areas is going to become more and more necessary if growth goes out there. I'll touch on that more on the last slide. This is just a real snippet of some of the raw data that was pulled from this that illustrates some of the challenges in these neighborhoods. So on the top row there, looking from left to right, in the South Revelstoke neighborhood, there's almost 400 meters of old sanitary pipe that's more than 80 years old. There's over water pipe. There's over a kilometer of old sanitary pipe that's again over 80 years old. There's a planned 6 kilometers of sidewalk, and that neighborhood is the one that's expected to receive the most type of infill growth. So again, an opportunity here to think about this. Compared with Columbia Park, no water pipes or sewer pipes over 80 years old, but still 3,400 meters, 3.5 kilometers of planned sidewalks, and still 300 planned housing units in that neighborhood. So looking at the different needs in these communities from this perspective can again help to balance those priorities and those investments. At least we hope. So recommendations coming out of this. These are soft recommendations. These are opportunities to think about this, to consider this in those future planning projects. Not necessarily for you to jump on these right now, but to consider these as you move forward. Number one, with your future growth likely to concentrate in those older areas, we think there's probably going to become a need to develop a system to strategically align that infrastructure renewal in advance of that growth. And so the key point here is the importance of being proactive in preparation for those changes. Number two, at the same time, those periphery neighborhoods have less access to amenities. And so gaining some understanding of how you might want to strategically respond to this will be important. Is it better to improve the connections to those neighborhoods, or is it better to add new amenities to those neighborhoods? So that's an outstanding question that this report can hopefully help inform an answer or guide you to an answer. How does that investment in those outlying areas get balanced with higher growth neighborhoods? And so these first two items point to that need to strategically consider and prioritize your capital projects. How much do you invest in each of these areas? Areas where growth is likely to occur or areas where growth has already occurred. You've probably got more on the books in terms of planned infrastructure projects than is possible. So again, that notion of strategic investment and planning based on growth is important. Number three, the likelihood of infill growth in those established neighborhoods will really benefit from a well-established development approval process that is prepared to address those challenges as they emerge. So how to deal with offsite improvements, how to deal with frontage improvements, how to answer those questions, how to deal with increased parking demand, how to deal with desire for new services and amenities in those areas. So the recommendation coming out of this is to start to think about how, as those come in over the next months and years, you can be best equipped to respond to those. And lastly, infill is quite sporadic. It can happen here, it can happen there. It's hard to predict. And if not prepared, hard to respond to. So what we're suggesting here is growth monitoring. So similar to how we've mapped out those last 10 years of growth, the suggestion is to keep tabs on where it's occurring, see if those patterns are emerging, and then hopefully use this information or this approach to understanding it to better respond. So with that, I'm done my presentation, Mayor Schultz, and really happy to answer questions.
Great, thank you, Mr. Sturgeon. Council, any questions for Mr. Sturgeon? A lot of information there. Thank you for that, Councilor Orlando.
Yeah, thanks so much, Daniel, for the presentation. Just a general question. maybe for staff or for Daniel, what are the next steps to integrating these recommendations, making decisions about them within the larger context? Dan, and then background, Daniel, I know you and I, when you were back in Revelstoke about 7 or 8 years ago, chatted a lot about the need to get fundamental documents in place like OCP, zoning bylaw, et cetera. And we've made a lot of progress since then to get them in there. And I see in the recommendations of some of the items are already in motion, accounted for. Other ones seem to be a bit of a new direction or quantified in a new way. So just generally with sort of the broad recommendations, what are the steps to get, to consider the report and integrate them appropriately through all of our processes, including like more fundamental, like engineering processes, those kinds of nuts and bolts systems.
Go ahead, Daniel, please.
I think that might be a better, I don't want to kick the bucket here too much, but I think that might be a better one for Paul. Like I said, we've positioned these as soft recommendations and allowing you and your staff to choose which ones you want to prioritize and really hope that it gets incorporated into those next plan processes. So whenever your next OCP update is coming up, then to take advantage of this. I don't know, Paul, if you want to add something to that.
Mr. Simon.
Through your worship, Councilor Orlando, Daniel hit a nail on the head. Next OCP process, this will be really key. Think of it almost, it's escaping my mind, but the city did a really detailed kind of growth projection analysis with the original OCP in 2009 after we saw the resort open and a little bit more growth was projected. And so this would be a really fundamental foundational document that gives us a lot of baseline information. I also think too, this project and this process was a lot about taking stock of where we're at and where we're headed. I think that this council and this community has seen a lot of growth and a lot of development over the last few years. And at times that becomes challenging to manage, can feel a bit, I don't want to say chaotic, that's not the right word, but a better synonym for chaotic. It is a challenging thing to manage in a community like Revelstoke that is 126 years old now. The age of our pipes, we don't have hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank to go replace them every year. We have an engineering group that every single year is undertaking major capital investments. So now that we're seeing a lot of this work get underway, a lot of those fundamental bylaw changes that we've been craving for the last decade, OCP zoning changes, how is that manifested? Where are the gaps that we need to address? And this will help involve decision-making processes at the staff level, the resources that we rely upon utilizing GIS, for example, from a development application decision-making perspective when we're making recommendations to council. The engineering team reviews every single application that comes in, trying to understand what offsite improvements, what frontage improvements. We do pre-application meetings with every single development application that comes in, being able to identify something at the front end. You have a pipe that is 80 years plus old right now that connects to another pipe that's 80 years plus old. The whole block is going to need infrastructure upgrades. It really starts to help inform Mr. Black and his team's kind of priorities as we go forward in terms of those localized improvements that are needed. It helps inform the planning department's decision-making recommendations when we're doing rezonings, OCP amendments, development permit applications, and it really helps inform the development community what they're going to be up against. Infill development is not easy. We all need to really recognize that, and documents like this just empower us with more and more critical information to help guide that decision-making process. I know that's a very high-level answer, but that is the reality of what a project like this ultimately does for us.
Well, Councilor.
Yes. Thanks for the response. I really do appreciate that. My sort of higher level read on the report is, the province is wanting to support this long-term thinking and decision-making about stuff. In part, Revelstoke has been forced to do that already just due to growth pressure. A similar sized community somewhere else may have the opposite problem of, people leaving town or something like that. So we've taken a lot of steps, and I think that's why you see some of the recommendations, like, they're already budgeted and they're gonna happen next year, this year, that kind of thing. So that's absolutely great to make. I guess my other final point is, it's great to see an additional layer or lens of data-driven information. depending on what the process is or what the plan is, sometimes they can be driven by other considerations, wishes, dreams, hopes, but grounding that in the layer of data, especially data about, age of infrastructure, et cetera. Not saying we don't already do that, we do a lot. Is good to have another lens to take a look at when we get to discrete decision points about individual projects or changes to individual plans. So I really do appreciate that, Daniel. Great to see you again as well, and thanks for the presentation.
Any other comments, questions from Council Chair?
Thank you, Mr. Halls. Just to the chair, the staff, or the consultant, something that jumps out to me here is the actual lack of parkland in the city outside of the downtown core. So I'm just curious how this is going to be used into future parkland dedications around Revelstoke. I know we always hear the same thing, that Revelstoke's surrounded by greenery, but when it comes down to, we are going through a bit of a baby boom right now in town, and there are parents that want to be able to walk to localized parks. We just don't see that reflected on these maps.
Mr. Sonderman, go ahead.
Through your worship to Councillor Cherry, one really big piece that I would point to here, if you look at map 56 of 68 and the attachment packages, this is a really nice culmination of not only showing the existing, and keep in mind, these are main, community parks. It shows not only the existing ones,
Thank you.
but it also shows the planned ones as per the Parks and Rec master plan. So I'll pull it up here just so you guys can see, because I think that it does also showcase, the benefit in the forward-thinking documents that staff have worked with council on, Parks and Rec master plan being one of them. And there's always going to be areas that can be expanded upon, of course, but a project like this helps to start to visualize, okay, if we actually want to realize this future where we have more park space that's all within a 5-minute walking distance, what does it take from the city side to start prioritizing development of some of those parks and working with our director and our Parks and Recreation team to actually start seeing those constructed? And one of the pieces I would also add that I think is forward thinking for the community as well is we just had the DCC bylaw update, and there's a specific parks DCC in there, again, to help fund critical park infrastructure that's going to be needed and generated as the result of new development. So doing a project like this is very interesting, and especially to do a project like this, you might not be able to do it to this level, but every year and every 5 years, really delving back into it to see what's changed and how those amenities have improved, and the accessibility for the community on key things like parkland is also improved. But yeah, I would certainly point to this map that shows these are the planned ones that we have, right?
Lots missing in Arrow Heights.
And through your worship to Council Cherry, I think it's again a good opportunity. And again, all of our master planning documents, if we get really good at doing what we're doing, every 5 to 7 years, you're updating those master planning documents. And this is an iterative process of managing growth within the community from all these different viewpoints. It's never going to be you do one plan and you're done. It is methodical upkeep of all these documents, implementation of them over subsequent councils and staff. That's how you start building what is more of a complete community, not to be entirely cliche here, but that is the whole nature of this project.
5 documents as we move on. Yeah. Councilor Stibbner.
Yeah, I think just really quickly, I think when we're looking at the complete community, one of the things that's concerning for me right now is I'm not seeing the growth of our commercial sector that's going to support all this. I mean, when I look through the 20-year forecast of housing that's going to be built, it was something to the tune of like 1,500 units of housing that's expected to be built. And where are we seeing the increase in commercial real estate, and how are we going to draw businesses to help support this? Because otherwise it creates a livable community and everybody wants to be here, but do we have the jobs to help support those who want to move here? And I'm not seeing that. And then also to Councilor Cherry's point, I'm sure most of us have experienced, the aquatic center on a Saturday or a Sunday. Thankfully it's now open on Sundays. But how many hours are people being deferred away because of that capacity? Same with the library. Are we keeping up with the demand of the community? So, yeah, thank you.
Those are all parts of infrastructure. It's all part. Everything will have to grow as we grow, and we'll just move through those things as we can. But now we've got the foundation to build on. We've got the information. So, Mr. Simon, thank you for your department. Mr. Sturgeon, thank you again for your company willing to take this on and for you personally taking it on because you know Revelstoke. I am grateful for that because we now have something that we can work from. So appreciate that. Very
Thank you,
much.
Mary Souls. And it's great to hear yourself and council already gaining some insight from the report and asking yourselves questions that can help you in your decision making over time. So it's already useful. So thank you again.
Great. All right. Any other comments, questions from council? Seeing none? Councilor Lucio. go
Yeah,
ahead.
thank you. I just have a question. I'm just looking at one of the maps, map C3A. Just looking at the walkability to schools. I see that there is a yellow section for the downtown. Is that in relation to RSS and Begbie View? So I just feel like that is a really quick 5-minute walk from downtown to the high school. Or is that off of Old School?
I'm sorry, I would have to spend a few minutes here refamiliarizing myself with some of the place names. I'm hoping Mr. Simon can bail me out on this one.
Your Worship, Councilor Lucia, if you could tell me, I C3.
C3A2.
Councilor Lucio, are you telling me you can't walk that far?
That's what
I'm saying I probably can, but seeing little kids scurrying up that hill, it might be. Yeah, I just wasn't sure. Just looking at the map, it seems to show that the downtown has a school within close proximity.
Through your worship, we can delve into that a little bit more. If it is, it might be referring to the old, no, it wouldn't be that one. It might be referring to Begbie View. And if so, whenever we do these analysis and you're doing your 5-minute walk sheds,
Yeah.
certainly it's going to have some assumptions built in there, and smaller children or individuals with mobility limitations, it's not going to be the same for them. The key here is the snapshot that it gives us and that general insight. All of these maps, there's assumptions that are baked into every single one, and when you're producing data at this volume, the quality control, as much as you're going through and trying to vet every single piece of information, you're also relying on historic GIS layers that we have that sometimes are upkept very, very well and sometimes might be a year or two out of date. But we can delve into that one a little bit more closely as well, because the intent is once this is all kind of finalized, we have the ability to publish it internally for staff to, again, help with the decision-making process and recommendations for council on an application by application basis. And then making sure that the quality of the data is really high. Then we start to look at how do we push that externally to the public if they're interested in trying to toggle on different layers to understand different elements of the community as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Councilor Palmer.
Yeah, I was debating whether to release my inside voice or not. A few questions. I just on the baseline and probably more through to the director of planning. So I just trying to remember. So $150,000 fully funded by the province, fully funded by taxpayers ultimately, not local tax dollars, but it came from local tax dollars as well. And so some of the questions inside my mind are, did we get $150,000 worth of value? And and I'm not going to ask that question. It's interesting because there's a good simulation. It's a very interesting exercise because it's very, very visual.
Yeah.
And so from that perspective, it does give some insights. And what on the baseline, I was just trying to remember, maybe Mayor Souls, or maybe the director knows, what was the motivation behind the province to fund to this funding thing? I'm just trying to remember because that was in the early stages of their somewhat hasty approach to new provincial laws regarding housing. So I'm just trying to remember if it was just in their whole thing of how we're going to develop communities, or did they actually know what they were doing?
Through your worship, Councillor Palmer, we were actually the second intake round for the Complete Communities project. We didn't have capacity internally at the city to go on the first round.
Right.
So that's why we were a little bit later on after some of the legislation had passed.
Yeah.
But, and Mr. Sturgeon may be able to add on more because they've done, I think, probably close to 10 of these projects in various communities now. So they're very well versed in it. But getting better data and better insight, and just in terms of I appreciate the cost of projects nowadays. I get that. Quality GIS work and data is an absolute must in every municipality now. And I think the province have recognized that a lot of municipalities might not have access to really good quality GIS data, and working with qualified consultants that have a lot of exposure and experience in this will support and assist in the application decision-making process and making sure that communities are more understanding of the infrastructure needs within their community, the amenity needs within their community, so that they can hopefully expedite development application processes with better data. So, it takes a lot of time and manpower to get these maps put together, and it will provide very valuable information for us as we do move forward.
So, good. So the answer is, well, it wasn't the question, but the answer on the value, saying yes, there's value. That's good. Just a question on the GIS. So I'm not familiar with our in-house GIS capacity. Do we have dedicated person or persons to GIS?
Through your worship, Councilor Palmer, yes, we do now. We have 2 individuals. We're at 2 now, 2 FTEs, and managed under Mr. Wilson in the IT department. And I can tell you our GIS capacity, and the planners deal with it every day, the engineers, public works staff every single day. It's an invaluable resource to have, and they work behind the scenes and they don't get a lot of kudos in public. Mm-hmm. They deserve a lot of kudos, and we hear it all the time from, whether it's real estate agents, development community, just general community members. You can go on an external map and you can see all the applications that we're processing right now and a description of what it's for: a building permit for this, a development permit for this. So you do projects like this, and they get handed over by our consulting team a whole whack of data that they can then embed into our internal and then at times external GIS systems. Incredibly valuable information.
Just further and sort of diving a little operational somewhat, but I think it's educational to us as well. So that GIS, and kudos to them, just on the record, because it's again, valuable information. The GIS stuff for us at the council table, for those pictures have more value than words, quite frankly. Mm-hmm. The data, so I'm assuming this data will be integrated into our GIS, and I'll ask the question. So is the raw data proprietary to Urban Systems, or will we own the raw data? Okay, good. Seeing a positive answer there. Good.
Sorry, Dan.
Sure, yeah, I just jump in there. So the raw data was yours to begin with. And then what we've done is we've taken that and reanalyzed it and created these new sort of data sets. And then that raw data has been given back in an entire data set. And then there's an interactive online viewer that has all these different layers that your staff have access to. So it's yours to continue to work with, and you could reanalyze or build on it if you wanted.
Okay, awesome. That's good. That's good news. Just building on that, Marisol's. That's good news, because I see there were some questions here. I see some other information that is already out of date. No fault on the consultants, specifically on some of the sewer, the Lower Town stuff that I think we did some of that work this year. So it'll be interesting how this is implemented for those upgrades. One thing that I noted, just sort of in a general, that seemed to be a sort of a larger sort of global absence, was West Side. Mm-hmm. West Side Road, there's not the data in that area. And I think that's probably a symptom of that we just do not have a lot of data that could have been given to the consultants for the West Side Road, and not a large vision for that. What's happening on the west side.
Through your worship, Councilor Palmer. So one thing, and very astute and on the nail on the head, working with Daniel and his team, staff had basically given the direction to, we really wanted to focus on those core residential neighborhoods. So you'll see, admittedly, once you get north of Columbia Park, there's not a lot of, we really focused the mapping on Columbia Park all the way down to Arrow Heights. Right. And you'll also notice the resort lands as well. Okay. they have their comprehensive development going on. They will be building it as a complete community and have zoning for commercial and multi-use paths and recreation amenities. So we really wanted to focus the analysis on those core residential neighborhoods in the downtown area of the city to help provide insight for our standard zoning bylaw documents. If anything ever happens on West Side Road, that'll have to be anything comprehensive, rather. That'll be a much larger discussion with council.
Yeah.
So
Okay, that's good. Thank you, Marcellus. Okay, thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Councilor.
Yeah, just one quick, another overview comment. One thing I did notice in here was sort of equity statements. So looking at the infrastructure, Councilor Lucia was commenting on transportation, like youth transportation to schools, that kind of stuff. Councilor Cherry mentioned parks on the equity lens, what neighborhoods do and don't have them. I just would like to just point that out. Another one that came up a lot that I was, was food for thought for me was sidewalks, which we often do in relation to something else happening in the neighborhood, like concurrent with the development, but does point that out a lot. So just my opinion that having that data-driven lens with an overlay of equity on it is an important thing to have within the basket of considerations when we're moving forward or seeking moving forward with planning documents or infrastructure stuff. So it's great to see.
All right, thank you all. We're gonna move on. Thank you, Mr. Sturgeon. Appreciate your time. Thanks for all your work. Take care. All right, we're gonna move on to PRC Committee to Approve Public Events Summary Report. Mr. Nato, do you have a high-level overview for us?
Thank you, Your Worship. I don't have a presentation or anything, but I'm happy to address any questions that you have about any of the events listed in your staff report.
I'm always in awe at the number of events that we get coming forward. So it's nice to see that you've got a fairly comprehensive list of things that go on. Councilor Stapler.
I was just wondering if we could get a brief explanation as to why the Revy line on the side scheduled for July 12th, August 1st, 8th, and 22nd is canceled at Queen Elizabeth.
Sure. To Councillor Stapenhurst, the events were canceled due to the mosquito issue in the park. With all the mosquitoes we had this summer, the Arts Revelstoke group decided to cancel the events in the park space.
Thank you for that.
Good. All right. Any other comments or questions?
Yeah.
I see nothing else, Mr. Nato. Thank you. Thank you for giving us that summary and the report. Appreciate it. All right, we're going to move on to departmental updates, verbal corporate services quarterly report. Mr. Parliament, can you lead us through that? I know Ms. Floyd's not back yet.
Just lost my connection.
Yeah,
Give me a
me
second.
too.
Give me a
We
second.
can always come back to it after the.
She's just
Yeah.
coming in the door.
Okay, so
Oh, and he's never mind.
he's here.
And of course,
Perfect timing.
you're up.
Okay.
Councillor Cherry suggested we go to RCMP and he was bailing at the same time.
Right, he said they're looking for you, but I thought he was just being.
It's good you're coming because none of us can get our report out.
Okay, I'm back online.
My apologies,
Yeah.
sir. Now my connection.
Can I use mine?
Should come on.
Thank you, gentlemen.
See you later.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna feel,
Okay, so I guess I can share my screen.
Oh, it's hardwired,
to the podium.
Excuse me, Your Worship. I'm happy to share my screen if it's helpful.
Oh, that'd be great. Thanks, Ms. Delasal.
Thank you. In terms of the third quarter for corporate services, we had 6 council meetings, why are they in the fourth quarter? My apologies. 6 council meetings in the fourth quarter of 2024 versus 4 in 2025. And I think the difference is just because the finance standing committee wasn't done through council, they were done through committee of the whole, and then Shanna hosted the finance meetings. It's pretty straightforward or pretty consistent. The meetings from 24 to 25. In 25, in terms of bylaws, the great thing for Q4 was the DCC bylaw received approval from the Inspector of Municipalities. So we're good to go with that, with the non-in-stream applications. There are a total, council adopted a total of 15 bylaws in 2025 and repealed 2. We worked with the governance committee and worked on all the policies, and we've updated many of them, which have also been updated on the website. But in the new year, hopefully all of them will be transferred over, and staff will present an index that's linked to all of the new policies, so that it's very easy for council and residents to see the policies. We have had a number of agreements, renewals, as well as new agreements that were done. Freedom of information requests. Although this is Q3, we've got a few going in Q4 and nothing outstanding in Q3. And then I don't believe Miss Williams is online, but the social media overview is also in the report. I think the efforts that Ms. Williams has put forward definitely show in the city's engagement in social media platforms. And the City Views newsletter has definitely received more open rates. In 2023, we were at 56.5, and now we're up to 67.7. I like to think it's because people want to see what pun Francesca has added to the beginning of it. We did not do website stats right now because of the redesign. So hopefully next year in January, we'll be able to pick that up again. Talk Revelstoke has been doing great. I think that all of the departments providing input and managing projects has definitely made a difference. The featured projects for 2025 so far were the engineering summer construction work. A lot of people really looked at that and appreciated it, as well as the wastewater treatment plant update. It's pretty neat to see the videos every 2 weeks. And then the Big Eddy Active Transportation received a lot of traction. But happy to answer any questions, and I apologize for being late and not very organized.
No, you're right on time. Everything's great. Any questions? Councilor Plum.
Yeah, thank you for the report. Even without comments, it's useful to have the data, and that goes for all the quarterly reports we get. Just a suggestion on the website overview, you got that paused on there, and this was kind of like a flag. Okay, well, what's going on? So I've just a suggestion, maybe because it is a public document, update that, say the update of the data is being, and explain that, because it's a good news story, not a bad news story. This sort of conveys a bad news story.
Thank you. Can definitely do that.
Thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, Ms. Floyd. Appreciate the report and the work that you and Ms. Wonder's to put this together for us. Going to move on to RCMP, Staff Sergeant Dodds. You're up. Thanks for your patience today and waiting through us, getting through everything.
It's good to get, observe all the excitement. I don't mind. As they say, it's all pensionable service.
Oh, there we go.
Thanks for having me, Your Worship. This is a quick one, just third quarter report, a little bit later than usual, but basically a recap of the summer's events. It takes us a while to tabulate our stats, and a lot of our stats, just a little bit of background on these reports. A lot of our stats are kind of fluctuate for a few months until they kind of normalize, depending on crime type, if we pursue charges, et cetera, et cetera. So sometimes that's why it takes a little bit of time to prepare these quarterly reports, just in case anybody's wondering. And I see Janet's put it up for me, so that's wonderful. Just a few comparisons for you. There was the stat report that I think you all had in your package, but I just did this little presentation for visual effect. The trend chart for the third quarter comparisons in the municipality, again, very pretty much static or consistent over the last 3 years. 2025, a little bit down in property offenses and persons offenses, but a little bit up in collisions. So, again, a lot of it has to do with highway conditions and stuff like that, where we see, and traffic volume, overall traffic volume. We keep seeing increased traffic volume on the number one. So that's probably a reflection of that higher stat for collisions in the municipal area. And then, but in the provincial area, we're a little bit lower. So who knows how it all works. Anyways, stats are strange animals. Anyways, in the provincial area, we were up, just as a comparison, in the provincial area that we cover, a little bit up in persons offenses or persons calls for service, property crimes, or property calls, and a little bit down on the collision side. So more volume in town, maybe a little bit less in the provincial area. So going to the next one, impaired driving and traffic enforcement. Again, consistent over the last at least the last 2 years there. Municipal 25 in impaired driving calls, 10 in the provincial area, and for a total of 35 impaired driving, not calls, but overall files.
Same people, you're over here.
Yeah, could be. I hope not, but you never know. Municipal traffic enforcement, obviously back to about the 2023 level. Not sure what happened in 2024 there, but pretty consistent. 133 traffic files within the municipal traffic file enforcement files within the city. Calls for service. This is kind of the big one for just kind of gives you a big snapshot. Pretty consistent, 1244 total in that quarter versus 1214 in the quarter previous year. So our as I say every time I'm here, we are trending just incrementally up year over year since COVID. We had a dip there in COVID, and obviously because of the lack of mobility during that time, but we're trending up. We'll probably see for a total, I'm guessing we'll hit 4,000 files this year. At last look, we were approximately ranked 33rd in the province for calls for service per member. So pretty decent for calls for service per member per year. That's just off the top of my head. I don't have that stat in the report, but annual performance planning, traffic. You guys have seen this before. Traffic impaired driving enforcement is one of our goals. Speeding, both within the municipality and on the provincial highway, is another one. Theft from auto continues to be something that we're trying to pick away at, and police community relations is big on our list of things. So I don't have a visual of it, but on our community policing report, one thing that I did notice in the third quarter for sure last summer was property theft was just slightly up versus most every other except for assault. Assault was slightly up as well. I mean, we're talking, not very big numbers, but those were slightly up in that quarter. But overall, the crime, everything else was trending down for the most part in all of our other crime types. So not sure exactly why, unless you really drill down on the files. But again, the numbers are so small that we're talking sometimes tens, ones and tens of differences. So our little thing of the we are doing holiday season impaired driving enforcement. So excuse me. As per normal, every year we do counterattack road checks throughout town, throughout December. I mean, we're always doing impaired driving enforcement, generally speaking, throughout the year. But this is the season, tis the season for holiday parties, etc. So we'll be picking away at that. We did the December 6th National Impaired Driving Initiative, the Light Up the Highway. And I think we checked well over 100 cars that night in a couple of different locations that we set up and did impaired driving enforcement. And I'm happy to say that we didn't pick off anybody on December 6th for immediate roadside prohibition or criminal code impaired driving. But we still continue to intercept or do that every evening when the members are out and about. And this week alone, we've had at least 2 immediate roadside prohibitions, whereas 30-day impound and 90-day license suspension. So we are picking away at it. So the other thing I wanted to add is that we did get through ICBC some coupons from McDonald's, which we're thankful to get from them for free coffee. So we're giving those out at our seasonal impaired driving check stops for designated drivers and people that are behind the wheel and sober. So they're getting a little prize for being the designated driver, free coffee from McDonald's, which is.
I thought you were offering them a sober up.
Yeah.
I was gonna say.
Yeah. No, we might give those to the other people too. You never know. But yeah. So that's kind of neat that ICBC provided those in conjunction with McDonald's this year. So we appreciate that.
Nice incentive. Really is, as minimal as it seems. It's good to see for those who are going through the effort to make sure their friends get home safe.
Absolutely, Your Worship. And the other thing is that, we were talking about walkability and how compact Revelstoke is really, and there's really no excuse. You can walk home from pretty much anywhere here. And so we encourage that, or get a ride, or call a taxi, or call.
Yeah, we're willing to do videos, 3 steps back, 2 forward, some sideways, but at least you're home safe, right?
Yeah, sure.
Just one thing, thank you for the report. I appreciate you coming every quarter to kind of fill us in. This weekend, Saturday, we are having our Santa Claus parade. I'd love to see Safety Bear out, even if it's sitting on the back of your newfangled Ford pickup truck going through the parade. So just keep that in mind.
I'll see if I can find if I can wake up Safety Bear. Safety Bear is in hibernation currently, but we might be able to. It's warm out, so we might be able to get Safety Bear back out on the thing. But I might be leading the parade, so we'll see how that works. How that goes.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks again. Any comments, questions from councilors? Council Paul?
Yeah, just a quick clarification. So generally the stats are third quarter over third quarter, so we're not seeing the annual.
Yeah.
So that's good. I'm just confirming that's what I'm seeing. And then your next report will be it's a leading question. We'll have the annual over annual of those 3 years as well.
Through the chair, the fourth quarter and the year end stat, I can combine into one. Once we have the fourth quarter stats, we have basically all of our quarters, combined, and I can year over year that for the. Yeah.
Because it's interesting. I've noticed that over the reports over time, it's like you say, these tiny incremental, which is probably within the statistical error, however, when it's always a little bit more. So it'd be kind of interesting to see that trend as we move ahead. So look forward to that. Thank you very much for reporting.
Thanks again. Appreciate it. All right. We are done for the day. So I need someone to move termination. Councillor Stapenhurst, Councillor Orlando, all in favor? Motion's carried. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you, Ms. Delasal. Appreciate it.